Right now on Morning News Now, a new Trump administration taking shape 1 week after the election. The president-elect filling his cabinet to fulfill his top campaign promises, like mass deportation. Meanwhile, in New York, a judge set to decide whether to overturn Mr. Trump's hush money conviction. And in Washington, new developments in the ongoing fight for control of Congress. We have team coverage. Developing this morning, a mid-November scorcher, fueling wildfires and keeping fire crews busy from coast to coast. High winds and bone-dry conditions sparking red flag warnings across the Northeast. We are tracking it all. Plus, taking fire this morning, Spirit Airlines suspending all travel to Haiti after a flight from Florida was struck by gunfire. What we're learning about a second plane that may have also been hit. And reviving Red Lobster. That's right, the decades-old restaurant chain is getting a much-needed makeover with the help of its new 35-year-old CEO. I sat down to talk with him about the future of the franchise. Plus, we got a peek of the new menu that includes some old classics. A little hint there, if you were once a fan of their Hush Puppies, you'll be happy to head back to a Red Lobster now. Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Thanks for joining me today. Joe Fryer's on assignment. We're going to get started this Tuesday morning with the cabinet for the second Trump term in the White House continuing to come into focus. It looks like more members of Congress are set to join the administration. President-elect Trump is expected to nominate Florida Senator Marco Rubio in the coming days to become Secretary of State. That is according to three sources familiar with that selection process. Rubio was once a Trump rival, of course, for that Republican presidential nomination, but then later became a close ally. Meanwhile, Mr. Trump has selected another Florida lawmaker, Congressman Mike Waltz, to be his national security advisor. That's according to sources familiar with the matter as well. It's also been reported that the president-elect has nominated South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to be his Secretary of Homeland Security. NBC News has not independently confirmed that selection. Immigration, of course, expected to be a big focal point in a second Trump term. Well, this all comes as Mr. Trump is set to meet with President Biden tomorrow in the White House. We've got team coverage ahead this hour, including the latest on the balance of power in Congress, something we are still closely watching, plus more on a decision expected today by a judge here in New York on whether President-elect Trump's 34 felony count hush money conviction will be overturned. A lot to get to this morning. We're going to start with NBC News correspondent Dasha Burns. She has, of course, covered the Trump campaign extensively throughout this election. I am happy. My heart is warmed to see that it looks like she is at home. Finally, that's good news. Dasha, thanks for joining us. Let's get started with President-elect Trump leaning towards these two Florida lawmakers. I mentioned them, Marco Rubio, Mike Waltz, for key roles in his administration. What should we know about these possible picks?
Well, it's interesting to see how many folks are getting selected from Florida and New York, the two poles of power in Trump world at this point. But look, Marco Rubio was an interesting pick, given that he isn't seen as staunchly MAGA as some of the others, though he has been staunchly loyal to President-elect Trump. His view on international relations, on foreign policy, is a little bit more traditional in the Republican sort of hawkish approach. He's not as isolationist as President-elect Trump, but a lot of Republicans see this as a good choice, kind of balancing those two interests in the Republican Party. There's the folks that want fully America first, and then there are some that do want to see America still hold alive influence over global affairs. So this is somebody who is respected by his fellow Republicans in this position. He was on the Foreign Relations Committee. Representative Mike Waltz, of course, is a veteran Green Beret. He is another staunch Trump ally. And again, the buzzword for all of these picks, Savannah, is loyalty.
There you go, Dasha. No, keep us posted as we get more and more of these announcements. Also, as we mentioned, President-elect Trump is going to be in Washington tomorrow. He will meet with President Biden. He's also set to meet with GOP congressional leadership. That's according to two sources familiar. Tell us what we know about these meetings.
Yes, so the meetings with the current president and the president-elect, that has been a courtesy and a tradition for decades now, notably one that was not extended to President-elect Biden by then President Trump. He did not concede the 2020 election. However, Obama did invite Trump to the White House back in 2016. They had a 90-minute meeting. Sometimes the VP, Vice President-elect, and the current Vice President also have meetings. So at this point, we're not hearing that J.D. Vance will participate. We also know that President-elect Trump will be meeting with House Leader Mike Johnson, and also with whoever the Senate Majority Leader will be, which we will find out at some point tomorrow, Savannah.
We sure will. Still waiting on that one, too. Dasha, we're also hearing that FBI Director Christopher Wray is preparing for the possibility he may be replaced. So that's according to three people familiar with the matter. But Wray was appointed to a 10-year term, people might remember, by Mr. Trump himself. This was back in 2017. That would mean he's still got some years left. What more can you tell us about this potential decision?
Well, since that appointment, Savannah, there's been a lot of bad blood between President-elect Trump and these intelligence agencies, particularly the FBI. One of the things that he promised is to clean house at the FBI and the DOJ, and this will likely mean that Christopher Wray is out of a job. He's going to likely pretty dramatically change the staffing at the FBI and the DOJ. That's among his top priorities, Savannah.
Dasha Burns, as always, we appreciate your reporting. Thank you so much. Well, meanwhile, a decision is expected today by the presiding judge here in New York over whether to overturn the jury's guilty verdict in President-elect Trump's hush money case. So Trump was found guilty of 34 felony counts. This was of falsifying business records to conceal payments to porn actress Stormy Daniels. Well, Judge Juan Merchan will also decide if Mr. Trump's sentencing should continue as scheduled. It was set for just a couple weeks from now, November 26th. If sentencing goes forward, he could face probation, hefty fines, or up to 4 years in prison. Well, Trump's legal team called the verdict into question. This is after the Supreme Court decision just happened back in July. It gives presidents some level of immunity for official acts. To help break this all down, we are joined by NBC News legal analyst Danny Cevallos. Danny, good morning. So lots of what ifs we're going to go through here. I'll get to that whole piece of the immunity aspect of it and how that could impact in just a moment. But first, let's just start with, what's the likelihood that Judge Merchan just does side with President-elect Trump and this is overturned?
Okay, so we're talking first, we have today possibly that the judge may actually dismiss the case. There was a lot of focus on sentencing, but this case may never make it to sentencing because first, the judge is going to decide whether or not the immunity decision by the Supreme Court means that there is no case at all, and the guilty verdict, including that guilty verdict, would also be gone if he dismisses it. If he does not, and it proceeds to sentencing, then I think a very low likelihood that he's incarcerated. But let's just talk briefly about the immunity decision. Here is what Justice Merchan is not deciding today. What he is not deciding is whether or not paying off an adult film star is an official presidential act. In fact, Trump's team isn't really even arguing that. They're arguing something a little more nuanced, which is that based on the Supreme Court's immunity decision, there's also certain evidence you can't bring in a criminal prosecution. And some of that evidence, even though Michael Cohen paid off Stormy Daniels before Trump was president, after he got in office, he reimbursed Michael Cohen from the White House. And the DA's office called as witnesses some of the people, Madeleine Westerhout, people that worked for Trump and introduced evidence that was generated during his time in the White House. And what the defense is arguing is that you can't even use that evidence against a former president. Now, some of that evidence is something like tweets from his real Donald Trump account, which went to everybody and was no secret to anyone. So there is a close call here, and the close call is whether or not that conduct, whether or not all conduct after someone is in the White House is presumptively official conduct that cannot be used as evidence. And the immunity decision didn't really give us a clear guideline on how that works.
So just walk us through what does happen if the case is dismissed. What does that look like?
It goes away. Now, that is appealable by the DA's office, but the case goes away. There is no sentencing. His conviction is vacated. It's as if he was never convicted.
Is there a world where he could be retried?
Well, here's the way that would work. It depends on what the judge decides. If he throws out all of that evidence in theory and vacates the conviction, when a conviction is vacated, double jeopardy does not apply. Not always. I mean, there are exceptions, but double jeopardy doesn't always apply. So in theory, he could be retried, but they would have to remove that evidence. That is one possibility, but either way, if it is vacated, you can expect that the DA's office will appeal to the extent they can. And since it involves the immunity decision, it's possible that this appeal could end up back at the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right. I love how you always play ball with giving us predictions. What do you think is more likely here, that he does dismiss it or that he does not?
That is a really tough one. I think he's some of the procedural things the judge has done indicates that he's seriously considering it. The fact that he pushed off all of these decisions until after the election and that he's issuing a written opinion. Just generally speaking, if a judge is going to issue a written opinion, it means he's really thought about it. When you could see a world where the judge looked at this and said, OK, you called Madeleine Westerhout, you called Hope Hicks. Those are White House employees. But let's go back to the core. This is about a personal payment to a personal attorney for a repayment to a porn star. No official conduct. And that's really what the DA's office is arguing. This really could go either way. But if the case goes to sentencing, I will make a prediction. He doesn't go to prison.
So, OK, so let's talk through that. So the purpose of sentencing is to hear, OK, well, you know, what's ultimately the punishment here? If this is not dismissed, does that, first of all, does that continue just a few weeks from now while he's also, by the way, in the middle of, you know, selecting his cabinet on November 26th as previously planned? And what does that mean? What does sentencing look like if it's not dismissed, we move forward with that, but he doesn't go to prison?
Great question. I would expect that the defense at least might seek what's called an adjournment, pushing off this sentencing and pushing it off for 4 years, magically, until Trump is out of office. But if it goes forward, I believe he will not get a sentence of incarceration. And here's why. This is barely a felony. It is a Class E felony, and it was only elevated that way because of an aggravating theory posed by the government. Second, you have all the factors. Again, I look at this as sentencing as a criminal defense attorney and think about all the cases that come before a New York City Supreme Court justice: murder, arson, rape, robbery, all these other things. You've got nonviolent, no guns, no drugs, first-time offender. The offender is over 70 years old. You have almost every argument for a non-incarceration sentence. The strongest argument for incarceration is that Trump annoyed the heck out of the judge throughout the trial, which is a non-zero factor that the judge will probably consider. But every other factor is in favor of a probation-only type sentence.
Danny Savalos, we appreciate it. A lot to talk about as we get more information today. Thank you. Well, this morning, while we are still waiting to see which party controls the House of Representatives, we are getting a clearer picture of the final makeup of the Senate. This is after NBC News projected that Democratic candidate Ruben Gallego is the winner of Arizona's Senate race. Gallego will be the border state's first Latino senator. We have NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale joining us on this now. Ali, good morning. So another call here. Arizona, though, it's a mixed bag, right, when it comes to politics, and certainly for Democrats. The state went for President-elect Trump, but then they take this Senate seat. Talk to us about this result and what Gallego is expected to be able to accomplish for Arizona in the Senate.
We're actually seeing this fascinating story start to emerge about senators, including Democrats like Gallego, but also just to the west of him in Nevada, the fact that Jackie Rosen is likely to be able to keep her seat. All of these are kind of the telltale signs, if you will, that even though Trump had a wave in his favor, there were voters who were willing to entertain the idea of ticket splitting. And so that's certainly what we saw in places like Arizona. If I still had that magic wall, magic big board still behind me, I would be able to show you the way in which he did it, because I imagine it went through places like Maricopa County in the Phoenix area where Gallego was able to run up the score even as Trump managed to win there. But that was really because Gallego tried to go in a nonpartisan fashion and try to pick up not just Democrats who want to hear his message as a Democrat, but also Republicans who might be reluctant to vote for Kari Lake, in large part those McCain Republicans that still exist in Arizona. Lake was struggling to pick those up. Gallego was eager to do that, though, and that's likely the story of how he was able to win this seat and come to Washington.
Ali, you killed it with the board, by the way. It was so fun to see you doing that. Let's talk about another Senate race, because we know...
I can just imagine it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, here's Maricopa. We know the Republicans have won the Senate. We've been talking about that a lot. But there is still a race that NBC News hasn't called. It is an all-important Pennsylvania. We do have the Republican candidate, though, Dave McCormick, declaring victory. But what's going on here? How close is this?
We are watching the Bob Casey campaign. Casey, of course, the incumbent senator there, say, let's wait, let's count all the votes, let's be patient. Republicans, though, including McCormick, are saying this thing is done and they want McCormick to come to Washington. That's not because they want him to start his term early. None of this really kicks into play until January, but new member orientation starts this week. McCormick, if he wins, would be one of those new members. And also Republicans tomorrow, you touched on this with Dasha, have their Republican leadership election elections. That's going to be crucial. It also could be tight. McCormick would have a vote in that. Now, all of this comes down to whether or not the current majority leader, which is Democrat Chuck Schumer, allows McCormick to come. But Republican senators are also working their own way of getting him there to Washington and into the Capitol. Several of them say, hey, we're going to escort him in. He's going to be our guest. And that's the way that McCormick is going to be able to come to Republican freshman senator orientation without technically being the senator from Pennsylvania, because that race we have not called, others have not called it. Though I will say, when you look at where the vote totals are still outstanding, there is a very narrow and getting narrower path for the incumbent Democratic senator there, Bob Casey.
Every time you say new member orientation, or I hear that, it's just suddenly all the new members of the Senate are like college kids wearing backpacks. It's so funny. Ali, before I let you go, we do have to talk about where things stand in the battle over control of the House. Is there a realistic path here for Democrats to victory right now?
I like that you said college, because I definitely think about them as like elementary age getting on the school bus with their lunches. But whatever, we're going to get out of this fantasy land that we're living in. On the House side, there are actually some new members who might not know if they're coming to Congress yet. We knew that races in Alaska and California were going to take a while to count. That is certainly a reality that is still in play, and we're waiting to see what this majority actually shakes out being. For their part, Democrats that I speak to, although they did see a potential path, losing seats over the weekend in places like Colorado and Arizona makes that path basically non-existent at this point. Democrats know they are likely to be in the minority here. Republicans preparing as if they have the majority. But this is where former president, now President-elect Trump might be making their lives a little more difficult. We talk about how close the margins are. That margin's still being counted in real time. But the more members that he takes out of the House of Representatives, the harder it gets. So far, we know that he's taken 2. But in the instance of someone like Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, going into the administration as well, that means there's a vacant seat back in South Dakota. Are there other members of the House that might want to run for that, who have higher ambitions while staying close to home? There are trigger effects and domino effects to all of these decisions. Even if he's not directly taking someone out of the House, it could have an impact. And the thing you got to remember here in the House of Representatives is people can get sick, deaths can happen at random or spontaneously, and that can change the balance of power. One person being absent because they had outpatient surgery one day could be a difference maker for key votes. Things happen all the time, and that's the reality of close margins in Congress.
So important, such great context. Ali Vitale, grab your backpack, head to the Hill. We'll see you a little bit later. Thank you so much. Let's turn now to the growing devastation from deadly wildfires that are burning on both coasts. In Southern California, the mountain fire has destroyed close to 200 homes. Higher humidity, though, and lighter wind conditions have helped firefighters get the 20,000-acre wildfire to about 40% containment. But, of course, those conditions could change. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, crews along the New York and New Jersey border are still trying to tame what's called the Jennings Creek fire. More than half of the country is currently experiencing a moderate drought. For a look at how these gusty and dry conditions can continue to impact the Northeast and what's going on across the country, let's get a check on your Morning News Now weather with Angie Lastman here in studio. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hi, Savannah. Good morning to you. You're exactly right with everything you just said about the dry conditions, the low humidity, the really ingredients that we need to see those fires continue burning and potentially more fires start here through the day today on both coasts. Let's start with the Northeast, though, where we've got 35 million people under these fire alerts. Where you see the orange, that is an elevated wildfire risk. But where you see that brighter pink stretching from Boston down to New York, that is that red flag warning. It's been in effect for days, and it's basically all of the things that I said. When you have those ingredients of the really gusty winds, the low humidity, and of course, those very dry conditions that we've seen ongoing across this region, it's not hard for some of these fires to start and spread. Here's the big picture look at what we're expecting as far as those winds. This has been problematic. You might have noticed it over the past couple of days, and those winds are going to be quite strong out of the northwest today. 33-mile-per-hour wind gusts peaking in Hartford, a little higher than that in Boston. But we could see some peak wind gusts across this region up to 40 miles per hour. That, of course, makes things all the more difficult when it comes to fighting those fires. Meanwhile, we know that we've got a drought. We've got that expanding across parts of the country. But look at just how our fall rainfall totals are sizing up in comparison to what we normally get. So 5 to 25% of average rainfall totals are what we've seen for the Northeast. That means that we are dealing with potentially in some spots the driest fall on record so far to date. But we could see this last year for a little while longer. We really don't have any substantial rain in sight for this region. And we've got places like New York, Philadelphia, Hartford, Scranton, Atlantic City, all seeing that driest fall on record so far. And it likely will continue. Here's what we're running as far as those total amounts since the beginning of September. Just over an inch and a half in New York City. We normally have more than 8 inches by this time. Similar story for Hartford, not even over an inch of rain in Philadelphia. So we are desperate for some rainfall. And that, of course, is only expanding that drought that we've been talking about so much. 60% of the Midwest and the Northeast now under drought conditions. And you can see where there is extreme and exceptional drought across that region as well. Switching gears to the West Coast, a very different story. We've got the Pacific Northwest dealing with heavy rain, heavy snow potentially, and some strong winds. So we've got this next atmospheric river event that's going to kind of leave us with an active week ahead for this region. The Cascades and the Northern Sierra, you're going to pick up some really impressive snowfall amounts here over the next couple of days. Coastal Valley, that's where that rain is going to see, upwards of 3 to 5 inches in some spots. But notice that we could see some locations receiving up to 8 inches of rain. So we'll watch for the flooding potential there for those conditions as it develops over the next 2 days, basically. But that's where all the rain is and that's where all the snow is. So that's what we're going to be watching here, big picture wise. Snowfall totals, not quite as impressive, but I mean, a foot in some of these spots. Savannah, we're going to see those across parts of the Rockies, which, by the way, is getting a little bit of snow today, but nothing quite as impressive as what they're going to see, again, across the Cascades and the Northern Sierra. This will be something that we start to see wrap up here as we get into the middle of the work week. But looking ahead to your weekend, we've got the really dry conditions across the second half or across the eastern half of the country. That's where we'll see mild conditions. No surprise, those warm highs are going to last across the southern tier. We've got temperatures in the 80s and the 70s along the Gulf Coast. It'll stay windy, unfortunately, as we get into Saturday for folks across the Northeast. If you're looking for some fall-like conditions, I'd say the Midwest, mid-50s, plenty of sunshine for you on Saturday. And unfortunately, not a whole lot of rain in sight for the eastern half of the country, but we will start to contend with another system that works in the Pacific Northwest by the time we wrap up the weekend. So that is where all the rain and snow is, Savannah, but we sure do need it across the Northeast.
Yes, we do. All right, Andrew Lossman, thank you so much. We'll see you next hour. Well, one small, tight-knit town in Indiana is finally getting justice for the 2017 double murder of 2 teenage girls. After years of questions in the unsolved murders that baffled investigators and set the town on edge, a jury found 52-year-old Richard Allen guilty on all counts following the 4-week trial. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa has the details.
After more than 7 years, a stunning verdict in the Delphi double murder trial, with a jury finding Richard Allen guilty in the 2017 slayings of 13-year-old Abby Williams and her 14-year-old best friend, Libby German. Indiana prosecutors in closing arguments saying Allen slit their throats. He stole the youth and life away from Abby and Libby. Telling jurors the local husband, father, and pharmacy tech is the so-called bridge guy seen in video taken on Libby's cell phone the day the girls went missing and heard in this audio recording as prosecutors said he forced them off a walking trail at gunpoint. The prosecution arguing Allen left their bodies by a creek, Libby naked, saying he left a cartridge from his gun at the scene, owned a black Ford Focus captured on surveillance video nearby, and made multiple confessions behind bars, playing a recorded call of Allen telling his wife, "I did it," adding, "I killed Abby and Libby." His wife pushing back, saying, "No, you didn't." Amid a back and forth, Allen softening, saying, "Maybe I did. I think I did." His wife later crying, saying, "No, you didn't. They're screwing with you to get you to say things." The defense calling those false confessions, saying Allen was suffering from psychosis after being held in solitary confinement for 13 months. They argued there's no DNA evidence tying Allen to the scene, said tests comparing that bullet to his gun were inconclusive, and blasted the state's desperation after the murders went unsolved for 5 years. The jury not buying it and convicting a killer in a case that's consumed this tight-knit town. Do you think this case will stick with this town, is sticking with this town?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. If not just because of the court case, also it's just because the 2 little girls that died here, and that's just awful.
Yeah.
That will always be in our hearts.
Yeah.
It's a permanent scar.
Yeah.
Family members and attorneys in this case have been barred for now for speaking about this verdict under a gag order that the judge is leaving in place until Richard Allen's sentencing. That's set for December 20th, and he faces up to 130 years in prison. Back to you.
All right, Maggie, thank you so much. Well, there's much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, talking politics in the workplace a week after Election Day. We'll unpack the emotions of a particularly divisive election season and how to handle those political conversations with coworkers or family. Up first, though, after the break, a violent night in Amsterdam. More on those protests following a second wave of anti-Semitic attacks. We'll be right back. We are back now with the shocking story of a Spirit Airlines plane that was hit by gunfire yesterday as it was on approach to land in Haiti, but then forced to land in neighboring Dominican Republic. The escalating gang violence in Haiti is now forcing multiple U.S. airlines to cancel flights to and from the country. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has more on the story with the warning from officials.
It goes from here.
Video and photos from inside the Spirit Airlines plane show the bullet holes from the gunfire that tore into the passenger cabin. While no passengers were hit, one flight attendant did suffer a minor injury. Spirit Flight 951 was arriving from Fort Lauderdale when it was hit by gunfire from the ground as it approached Port-au-Prince. The pilots quickly abandoned plans to land in Haiti and diverted to Santiago in the Dominican Republic, where Spirit says an inspection revealed evidence of damage to the aircraft consistent with gunfire. The Port-au-Prince airport quickly shut down, with Spirit, JetBlue, and American all suspending flights into Haiti.
The gunfire could have brought the airplane down. I mean, with if it hit the hydraulic systems, the pilots are going to begin to lose control of the airplane.
With a barely functioning government, Haiti has been racked by brutal gang violence for years. Last month, a UN helicopter was shot at. In September, the State Department issued a do not travel advisory for Haiti, warning of robbery, carjackings, sexual assault, and kidnappings for ransom, and noting the airport can be a focal point for armed activity. Despite that warning, U.S. airlines have averaged 4 flights a day into Haiti. The embassy is now warning armed gangs are trying to block access to the city. Before airlines resume service, they'll need assurances that flying into Haiti is safe. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you so much. Well, we're going to turn now to breaking news out of Europe, where violence erupted again in Amsterdam last night. A tram in the Dutch capital city was set on fire by rioters who shouted anti-Semitic slurs. Rioters clashed with protesters earlier in the day, leading to several arrests. This marks the second wave of what authorities have condemned as anti-Semitic attacks in the city in just the past week. Several people were injured in violent clashes after a soccer match last Thursday. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators defied a ban on protests near the stadium, which resulted in those clashes with supporters of an Israeli team playing in the city. Now, police say some Israeli fans previously attacked a taxi driver and burned a Palestinian flag. Some also chanted death to Arabs. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez joins us from Tel Aviv with the latest on this. Raf, good morning. So what can you tell us about what happened overnight?
Savannah, good morning. Police in Amsterdam say they were called out last night when a masked mob attacked a tram line. They say that this crowd was armed with sticks, with fireworks. You can see footage on social media shows people throwing bricks through the window of that tram. And you can hear people shouting anti-Semitic slogans. Now, police say they made a number of arrests. They were able to restore order. But of course, the Dutch capital shaken by that violence late last week. And all eyes now on Paris, where Israel's national soccer team is due to play on Thursday. Israeli fans have been told to stay away from that game for their own safety. And French police say they will be deploying some 5,000 officers to maintain order. Savannah.
Raf, I mentioned this is the second attack of this nature in less than a week. How are authorities in Amsterdam handling this? Are more arrests being made?
Yeah, more arrests being made. Dutch police said last night that they had arrested another 5 people for that violence Thursday into Friday. That's on top of 4 who they have in custody from last week. There's a larger group of people who were arrested for various other kind of public disorder offenses. They were released with fines. The Israeli government is actually complaining, Savannah, that they feel that the Dutch are not moving fast enough to round up people who were involved in that violence on Thursday. Dutch authorities are saying that this was a truly chaotic night in the capital of the Netherlands, that earlier in the evening, large crowds of Israeli fans, some of them armed with sticks, had been going around causing acts of vandalism, ripping down Palestinian flags, attacking people, in some cases chanting anti-Arab slurs, but that later on, groups of these assailants began targeting Israelis in what they are calling hit-and-run attacks. Savannah.
And Raf, President Biden is set to meet with Israeli President Isaac Herzog. That's later today at the White House. What can we expect from that meeting?
So this is a meeting between an Israeli president, who is largely a ceremonial figurehead, and an American president who is a lame duck, whose party has just been routed in the elections. So we are not expecting any major announcements to come out of this. The real power here in Israel, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, is already looking past President Biden towards President-elect Trump. He says he has spoken to Trump 3 times since the election. That's more than any other world leader that we know of. The far right of Israel's government says it is already gearing up to annex parts of the occupied West Bank once the Trump administration comes into power. That is receiving widespread criticism from the Palestinians and from authorities in Europe. But it is worth saying, Savannah, that tomorrow is an American-imposed deadline for Israel to get more aid into Gaza or face a potential cutback in U.S. military support. The UN says there has been perilously little aid getting into the Strip over the last month. Savannah.
All right, Raf. Thanks, as always, for your continued reporting. Let's get you more international news now. Ukraine's president says his troops are up against a major counteroffensive by Russia. NBC's Matt Bodner has the details on that and other world headlines. Hey, Matt, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. Zelensky says that his forces in Russia's Kursk region are already engaged with a 50,000-strong Russian force attempting to drive them off of Russian territory. This is really the thing to watch between now and Inauguration Day. You have both sides seeking to secure their leverage over the other before the incoming Trump administration takes over and, of course, begins to pursue their pledge to end the conflict through negotiations. Russia has struggled to expel Ukraine from its territory since that surprise incursion back in August. North Korea has sent 10,000 troops to Russia's Kursk region, and Ukrainian officials say that their forces have already seen the North Koreans on the battlefield. Moving along now to the Philippines, which has been hit by 4 typhoons back-to-back over the past month. The latest storm brought with it floods, downed trees, and power outages in the northern Philippines. This series of storms, it has devastated the region, though there have been no immediate reports of deaths from the latest wave. Another storm is brewing right now in the Pacific. And we'll wrap up this hour in Romania, where teachers have enlisted the help of a rescue chicken and also a rescue duck to help curb an epidemic of bullying in Romanian schools. The chicken's name is Rodica, and the duck's name is Bubbles. The organization behind this says they hope that the animals can help children become more empathetic to people. The idea is that the actual presence of animals in the classroom encourages an emotional interaction that is hard to prompt, even with videos about animal cruelty. Back to you.
Wow, that's pretty neat. They get to hang out with them. All right, Matt, thanks so much. Coming up, Olympian Jordan Chiles speaking out for the first time since her bronze medal was stripped away.
It was an all-black podium. That was history made. That was something I'm very proud to be a part of.
What she's saying about the controversy and what's next for her. This is Morning News Now. Well, now it's time for our weekly mental health check-in. Let's start off with some tips to help you navigate those tough post-election conversations at home and at work. We're also going to talk about the surprise animal one U.S. airport has brought in to help anxious travelers. For more on all this, we are joined by a friend of the show, licensed marriage and family therapist, Dr. George James. Dr. James, good morning. So we are a week past the election, but it's, of course, still the topic of so many conversations. And we need some tips on how to maybe handle this with coworkers who, let's say, always want to talk politics. Let's maybe also look ahead to the holidays. Those tricky conversations often come up with family, maybe some people you don't see very often, but you've got these different perspectives from, but you still love them. How should we approach these situations?
Yeah, good morning, Savannah. Yes, it is very tricky, and oftentimes I'm encouraging people to have conversations. But in this situation, sometimes I'm actually encouraging people to not. It might be too soon. Some people might need time. Some people might need to figure out what they want to say. Some people might need to figure out what is best. Overall, I also want people to think about, can you think about the person, but not the politics? Can you remember this is a family member, a friend, a coworker, someone you care about, or even being able to have some boundaries about what is okay and what isn't okay. But overall, I want people to proceed with caution and to be able to have good times and to work together versus being conflicted over politics.
Really good tips there. Good one to remember. I'm looking off to our graphic here. It might be too soon to engage and put the person before the politics. Love that. A lot of people use therapy lights at this time of year. This is like for seasonal depression is kind of typically what we think about here. But a new study suggests that they're also effective for other types of depression, not related to the weather or to how light it may be outside. How do these work? Is this something more people should try?
Yeah, so this is called bright light therapy, where people can actually get a box that illuminates a certain amount of light that can help them with seasonal affective disorder, or if they work like third shift and need help with sleep. But what the study has found is that people can actually use this dealing with depression to help them be and feel better. So it's just saying that the impact of light is actually something important, and this type of therapy or resource is actually something affordable, sometimes less than $100. So it's something that we should probably add to every form of treatment because it seemed to be pretty beneficial.
All right. Wow. Good to know. Okay. I just talked about this a minute ago. We know about, an emotional, support dog, maybe even cat. But why pick those when you can have a llama? The Portland International Airport is bringing what they're calling therapy llamas to the terminal to help anxious travelers. I understand they kind of just like wander around. You can go pet them, hang out. Sounds like some people might lose their Chick-fil-A or something like that while they're waiting. I don't know if llamas do things like that, but what do you make of this?
I mean, I just want that picture. I mean, me in between two llamas, I think that would be pretty cool. Look, on some level, we recognize that people recognize that some people are nervous and anxious and that we need ways to kind of soothe and calm our anxiety. The other thing, though, is that some people really love pets and animals and can be soothed, but some people are also kind of overwhelmed and nervous by it. So it's a little bit both, where some people might see this support animal at the airport or on the airplane and might be overwhelmed by it and think too much. So I think we have to figure out what works best, but it might actually be helpful, and maybe it's just a cool pic that you can take.
I love it. Also, I was corrected by the control room. They're not feet, they're hooves, of course, of course. Dr. George James, thanks for joining us. Always good to see you. Coming up, crypto is climbing. In the wake of Election Day, we're going to break down why the re-election of Donald Trump has pushed Bitcoin to an all-time high. Stay with us. You're watching Morning News Now. We are back with the latest on a cryptocurrency surge that's been gripping Wall Street since President-elect Trump won the election last week. Bitcoin hit another record high yesterday, topping $89,000 for the first time ever. CNBC technology reporter Mackenzie Sigalos is here with more on this. Hey, Mackenzie, good morning. So for a lot of people who are like, I thought like Bitcoin was a flash in the pan and we're over it, or everybody lost their money, or whatever people might think, help us understand that it is still here, it's going strong, and why Mr. Trump's election win is boosting Bitcoin.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. So much of this record surge in the crypto market comes down to investors pricing in a future where Donald Trump delivers on all his campaign promises to the industry, most notably making the U.S. the crypto capital of the planet. The president-elect has also said that all future Bitcoin will be mined in America, which is why you're seeing those Bitcoin mining stocks surge as well. He's talked about launching a national crypto stockpile where the U.S. government would build its own multi-billion-dollar Bitcoin nest egg. And perhaps most notably, he's pledged to implement some big policy moves that would make it a lot easier for crypto companies to scale their business and open the door for Wall Street to pour its money into the sector. That would be a game changer for crypto, Savannah.
What are analysts saying about how high this is expected to go this year?
Okay, so already the crypto market has added more than $700 billion to its market cap since Donald Trump took office, along with nearly 300 pro-crypto lawmakers in Congress. But Standard Chartered sees the total market cap more than tripling to $10 trillion under Trump. And as for where Bitcoin is headed this year, they revised their forecast from $100K to $120,000. Also worth noting, Savannah, there's also a rally happening in meme coins. You've got Dogecoin, which Elon Musk has pumped up in the past, surging 150% in the last week on the back of sentiment that Musk has been closely advising the incoming president.
One of Mr. Trump's campaign trail promises at one point was also to lower regulations on cryptocurrency. What does that look like, and why would people be excited about that?
Okay, so Donald Trump is talking about firing the chairman of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Now, this is a federal regulator in the U.S. that has been coming down hard on the industry. We're talking more than 100 enforcement actions against crypto companies just since Chair Gensler came to power. Now, Trump is reportedly looking at some pro-crypto candidates to fill his shoes, which is why you've been seeing stocks like Coinbase and Robinhood shoot up, because they've both been dealing with legal fights with the SEC. Now, the other big promise here is rolling back another rule from the same regulator that basically stood in the way of big Wall Street banks like Goldman Sachs being able to hold Bitcoin on the bank's balance sheet. You do those two things, and suddenly the doors swing open to a surge of investment, which ultimately helps drive up the price.
If the president-elect follows through on these crypto promises, the digital currencies stay as high as they are, what kind of impact would that have on the day-to-day economy?
Okay, so Savannah, those spot Bitcoin ETFs have made it easier than ever for mom and pop investors to get exposure to cryptocurrency and to add it to their retirement portfolio. So prices going up is a real boost to a long-term investment strategy. And then that national crypto stockpile that I mentioned earlier, well, the pro-Bitcoin senator in Wyoming has introduced legislation that would make it possible for the U.S. government to use Treasury funds to buy more. She says that her bill would help pay down the national debt through this strategic Bitcoin reserve.
All right, Mackenzie, thank you so much for joining us on this. Good to see you. Well, staying on your wallet, a Dutch court just ruled in favor of oil giant Shell in a landmark case. We've got Bertha Coombs with us with that and other money news. Bertha, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Savannah. Yeah, an appeals court at The Hague today dismissing a landmark climate ruling against oil giant Shell after the company was ordered to make huge reductions to its global carbon emissions 3 years ago. The ruling, which comes during the COP29 climate summit in Azerbaijan, could have big implications for the future of climate legislation. Amazon, meantime, is confirming a data breach of employee contact information after reporting from 404 Media. Amazon says the breach exposed email addresses, phone numbers, and building locations linked to employees. The confirmation follows a report from the cybercrime firm Hudson Rock saying info posted on a hacking forum includes data from Amazon and 25 other companies. I don't know about you, but I got notices that my data was exposed, I think, from 4 different things over the last year. That Change hack from United Health, also Ticketmaster, all sorts of things.
All right, Bertha Coombs, thank you so much. Coming up, a restaurant chain's much-needed makeover.
TikTok has some thoughts about the tartar sauce.
It's being fixed. I hear you, TikTok. I agree.
Up next, I'll talk to the new CEO of Red Lobster about how he hopes to revive the franchise, including improving that tartar sauce. This is Morning News Now. Finally, this hour, we are bringing you a behind-the-scenes look at the new and improved Red Lobster. That's right, the restaurant chain is not closed. In fact, the company just launched a new menu yesterday, and I exclusively sat down with its new CEO, who's just 35, and he told me they're looking to make a comeback.
This is one of the most important companies to ever exist in America.
Red Lobster.
This is big.
Red Lobster's new CEO, Damola Adamalakan, has a tough task in front of him. Turn around the struggling chain and make it better than ever.
Relevant, compelling, and exciting is what we want Red Lobster to be.
It's been a bumpy road. A multitude of missteps led the company to bankruptcy and forced nearly 100 locations to close. Some blamed decisions made by prior ownership of the company, including
Ultimate Endless Shrimp is here.
My goal is to eat 65 shrimps tonight. 45 shrimps.
The chain's famous Endless Shrimp promotion, a menu feature Adamalakan has notably ended.
One way you can't have it is unlimited.
Because I know how to do math.
No matter who leads, the transformation of a storied American brand would be something. But with Adamalakan, there's another layer. He's just 35 years old.
Do you ever face pushback being
the young guy in the room who also happens to be the boss in the room?
Not really. But I don't even think about it. So I think if you're insecure about something, you give it power.
He's ready to dive headfirst into the challenge.
What do you think went wrong at Red Lobster?
This wasn't a one decision that led the company into bankruptcy. I think fundamentally, when a company is successful, it's important to remember what made them successful.
Adam Alakin says for Red Lobster, that's the food and the value.
I want to lower the check. So the prices on the menu are one thing, but giving people options is the more important thing, right?
If somebody wants to come for lobster and a glass of wine, what should they be spending at Red Lobster?
We should be the best deal for the best lobster, because we do have the best product. We buy 25% of the North American lobster tail that's sold. So we have the ability to make sure we get the best.
The new owners of Red Lobster, the private equity firm Adam Alakin had been working at, are investing $60 million in the restaurants. Money he's using on what he calls a brand refresh.
How do you inject more energy into the dining experience, right? So it can be lighting, it can be music, it can be little decor touches. You'll start to see changes first incrementally, and then over time we expect to feel like you're being transported somewhere new.
But the big news, a new menu with some new items, some removals, and some revivals.
There's net 20% reduction, but there are a lot of new items, 9 new items.
Okay.
So we have the bacon-wrapped sea scallops, which is wonderful. The lobster bisque, which is great. A couple of new pastas. There was a social media riot over us taking off the hush puppies a few years ago. So that is coming back.
Oh.
So I expect the opposite of a riot. I expect a stampede into our restaurants because we're bringing back the hush puppies.
So we know unlimited shrimp is gone, but things like Lobster Fest, Crab Fest, that remains.
Yeah. This year, we want to make it bigger and better than ever. You know what we're calling it? The Gloat, the greatest lobster fest of all time.
And maybe one day, as a promotion, you might do unlimited shrimp.
Nobody wants to talk about it. Is it possible at some point? Absolutely. Anything's possible.
Look at this.
We got a chance to exclusively see the Red Lobster test kitchen where these new items were cooked up.
We tested everything for the new menu. I think very importantly to the viewer, yesterday, we tested a bunch of tartar sauces because we're going to fix the tartar sauce, right?
TikTok has some thoughts about the tartar sauce.
It's being fixed. I hear you, TikTok. I agree. So we're going to make some of our famous Cheddar Bay biscuits.
And while I was here, we had to make a Red Lobster staple.
Dump it in, fold it over itself. Now there's 20 per tray.
These are beautiful.
Look how amazing these are. Brush across, all done. Nice job. Those are great looking biscuits, I must say.
Now, Adam Alakin also says that soon you could see some familiar faces partnering with Red Lobster. He's actively talking to celebrities and athletes who are interested in helping the company succeed. He also says he will be improving tech in the restaurants, even starting to use some AI tools to help with wait time estimation and making things run smoother. One other change, those Cheddar Bay biscuits that you just saw there, delicious. They're now going to be brought to your table as soon as you're greeted by your server. There's no need to ask. Also, remember how I said he's 35? I asked him for some advice since he's so young and so successful. He says there's 3 things that have really gotten him where he is. The first is that you have to always focus on your task at hand. Be good at the job that you have. His second is emotional control. He says he doesn't let himself get too excited or upset about anything. If you stay in that middle zone, you can be stable and make sound decisions. And he also likes to unplug. He's not on social media because he says it's better for his creativity and to come up with ideas if he gets some time away. So there you go. Try it out. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Don't go anywhere, though. The news continues right now. Thanks for joining us this Tuesday morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe's out on assignment today. Right now on Morning News Now, coast-to-coast chaos as wildfires torch thousands of acres across the east and west. In New Jersey, historically dry conditions turning deadly this morning. The new details about an 18-year-old killed while battling one blaze. While out west, homes and lives destroyed by that massive mountain fire that could intensify today. We'll bring you the latest. Also this morning, we're getting a clearer picture of what the next Trump White House might look like. Sources telling NBC News that the president-elect will likely tap Senator Marco Rubio, a fierce former rival, to be his next Secretary of State. More on that and the other high-profile picks from Mr. Trump's cabinet in just a moment. Plus, a long-awaited conviction in that infamous Delphi double murder case. The Indiana man now found guilty of killing 2 teens back in 2017. As a small town shaken to its core by chilling violence honors the pair gone too soon. And later in the hour, why more Americans are pressing pause on their big streaming subscriptions, not canceling them altogether, and how industry giants are now taking advantage of this latest TV trend. Maybe you're somebody out there who is pausing. I know I've done that for sure. We're going to get started this morning with a look at the growing devastation from deadly wildfires that are burning on both coasts. In Southern California, the mountain fire, it's being called. It's destroyed close to 200 homes. Higher humidity and lighter wind conditions have helped firefighters gain better control of that 20,000-acre fire, but there are concerns today that the Santa Ana winds could pick up again. On the other side of the country, over here on the East Coast, crews in New York and New Jersey are still trying to tame the Jennings Creek fire. All this as more than half of the nation is experiencing a moderate drought. NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa has the latest from Chatsworth, New Jersey. Emily, good morning.
Hey there. Well, parts of South Jersey have seen just 5% of the typical rainfall for this time of year. And you can see evidence of the drought just about everywhere you turn, from nearly empty rivers and reservoirs to burn scars like this that you would typically see out of the West Coast. A wildfire racing through here in recent days. And as I walk over here, you can see just how dangerously close it came to homes and neighborhoods.
This morning, dry conditions and whipping winds fueling new concerns over the firefight from coast to coast. 35 million facing elevated wildfire risk today. First responders battling the Jennings Creek fire that's spreading between New Jersey and New York, scorching at least 3,500 acres.
In my over 50 years of living here, this has been the most significant and probably most potentially dangerous situation I've seen or been involved in.
18-year-old Daryl Vasquez, a parks worker, was killed fighting the fire. A memorial held on Monday to honor the recent high school graduate.
He was an amazing kid. He just saw, was an opportunity for me to make a difference.
The wildfires in the Northeast powered by an unrelenting drought. This reservoir in Chatsworth, New Jersey, that normally floods the Lee family's cranberry bogs every fall for harvesting, is completely unrecognizable today.
We should not be able to be standing here right now.
No, this would be normally below water.
Out west, smoke could be seen from miles near Reno, Nevada, as a wildfire forced several thousand people to evacuate Monday. While in Southern California, families are salvaging what's left of nearly 200 homes destroyed by the mountain fire, which could intensify again today, with wind gusts expected to reach up to 60 miles an hour.
Our house miraculously survived. Of course, all these people didn't. So it's just very mixed emotions.
And powerful winds are a major concern here in the Northeast as well, with red flag warnings issued for parts of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. Here in New Jersey, the Forest Fire Service has responded to more than 530 wildfires since October, and unfortunately, still counting. Back to you.
All right, Emily, thank you so much. Well, for more on these dry conditions, let's get a check on your Morning News Now weather with Angie Lassman. Hey, Angie, good morning.
Hi, Savannah. Good morning to you. Emily is exactly right. Unfortunately, these conditions don't look like they're going to let up anytime soon. We've at least got the 35 million people across parts of the Northeast going to be impacted today. You see some of these alerts that we have up. They've been up for a lot of folks here. But notice the red flag warnings for Boston, Hartford, New York. We also have these elevated wildfire risks in effect for Atlantic City, as well as Georgetown, stretching up to Rutland, too. Now, notice all the fires that are burning. We've still got the gusty winds. We've still got the low humidity. These things aren't really going to change. And of course, we've got the ongoing drought that I'll show you here in a moment. But wind gusts today nearing 40 miles per hour yet again. It looks like Boston will peak around 35 miles per hour. We've got 30s for New York, Hartford, Scranton. This, of course, problematic for not just the spread of those wildfires, but helping firefighters kind of contain that. It's going to be something they'll have to contend with again through the day today. Big picture look of where we stand as far as rainfall amounts. Now, we're basically running the driest fall on record across this region, at least for the season to date. You see places like Hartford, Bridgeport, New York, Newark, Philadelphia, Atlantic City, all included in there. We desperately need some rain. We've only got about 5 to 25% of what we should have for this time, by this time of year. And here's where we currently stand. We've got nearly a 9-inch deficit of rain in Hartford. We've only had 1.25 inches of rain since the beginning of September. Not even an inch in Philadelphia. Desperately need the the rain as well for New York City. And these dry conditions are going to continue, unfortunately, with that drought looking to expand across parts of the Midwest and the Northeast over the past few days. We've got 60% of that region dealing with drought conditions. And notice we've got some pockets that see extreme and exceptional drought across the region as well. So something to watch. A very different story, though, if we go to the West Coast, where we're gearing up for a couple of really active days, specifically because of an atmospheric river event that's going to unfold here. Notice the system that nears the coast as we get the day done today. Snow showers for the Great Basin and the Rockies. Those are going to be something you'll deal with. But that next storm for parts of the Pacific Northwest, heavy rain, heavy snow, windy conditions for the next couple of days. This is a look at tomorrow, a big push of that moisture onshore thanks to the atmospheric river. We've got Medford up to Seattle, Spokane included in that as well. And we'll see some rain across parts of California, stretching up to Washington. And of course, in those higher elevations, the Cascades and the Northern Sierra, that's where we'll get some pretty substantial snow in some of these spots. Rainfall totals, honestly, are going to be a little impressive, especially as you get closer to the coast. Notice parts of Washington, Seattle, Forks could see upwards of 5, 6, even 7, even close to 8 inches of rain in some of those more localized areas. So the flooding will be a concern. Of course, some beneficial rain in some spots, but not all at once. We've also got the snowfall totals coming in about a foot in some spots, up to 1.5 foot in others. So good for, of course, the ski resorts and things like that, but difficult for travel over the next couple of days. Looking ahead to the weekend, because why not? We've got still that Sierra snow that we'll track through Friday. The rest of the country honestly looks dry and sunny and above average. So if you're looking for some 50s, 60s, 70s, we'll see that from the Gulf Coast, basically up into the Northeast and in the Midwest. As we head into Saturday, more of the same. Those snow showers are centered across the Rockies, so we'll pick up some additional snow there. But otherwise, the warm and dry conditions continue for the eastern half of the country through the weekend, Savannah.
All right, a lot to be concerned about, though, there with the drought. Angie, thank you so much. Well, now let's get to politics and the Trump transition, with more people being tapped to join the administration. NBC News is reporting President-elect Trump is set to choose Florida Senator Marco Rubio as his nominee for Secretary of State. This comes as Mr. Trump is set to head to the White House tomorrow to meet with President Biden. NBC's Garrett Hake has the latest from Washington.
With all things Trump, nothing is ever truly official until he announces it himself. But already we're seeing Marco Rubio's likely selection to be America's top diplomat cheered by Senate colleagues and by senior members of the current administration, who see him as a serious and substantive choice in dangerous times.
With the expected selection of Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, Donald Trump's next administration is coming into clearer view this morning. The two were opponents in 2016 in a primary that turned personal.
Do you know that in Florida, they hate little Marco Rubio so much?
But Rubio later became a staunch ally.
We are patriots who love America.
And this morning, in another key role, CNN reporting that Trump has chosen South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to run the Department of Homeland Security, according to two people familiar with the selection. Noem, once on the short list to be Trump's running mate before suffering political fallout after revealing in a new book that she shot her own dog.
How are you guys?
Trump also naming Florida Congressman and former Green Beret Michael Waltz to be National Security Advisor, and outspoken ally New York's Elise Stefanik as UN Ambassador. All set to play a crucial role advising the president-elect on national security and the ongoing wars in Europe and the Middle East. Trump also naming former New York Congressman Lee Zeldin to lead the EPA.
The first 100 days, we have the opportunity to roll back regulations.
All of those picks, save Walz, must be confirmed by the Senate, unlike two Trump hires focused on immigration, Tom Homan and Stephen Miller. During Trump's first term, Miller helped engineer the highly controversial ban on travel from several Muslim-majority nations, while he and Homan also played influential roles with the hardline policy that led to the separation of thousands of migrant families at the border.
The criminal migrants will go home, and America will be reclaimed for Americans.
Tomorrow, Donald Trump will travel back to Washington for the first time since his second election victory. He's meeting with President Biden in the Oval Office, and right now there's no indication that Melania Trump will be joining him for any kind of meeting with the First Lady. And as of yet, there's also no meeting announced between incoming Vice President Vance and the woman who he and Mr. Trump defeated, Vice President Harris. If they happen, those traditional sit-downs will come at a later date.
All right, Garrett, thank you so much. Well, as President-elect Trump continues to prepare for a return to the White House, his team is now planning for the possibility of replacing FBI Director Christopher Wray, according to three people familiar with the matter. Mr. Trump appointed Ray back in 2017, saying Ray could serve as, quote, a fierce guardian of the law and model of integrity. But in recent years, Mr. Trump has accused the Bureau of being politically motivated. Joining us now with the latest is NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delaney. And Ken, good morning. So Ray told NBC News earlier this year he enjoys the job. He plans to serve out that 10-year term, which means it's not coming to an end right now. But does the president have the power to essentially fire him? And what would most likely happen?
Good morning, Savannah. He absolutely does. In fact, Ray got the job because Donald Trump fired FBI Director James Comey early in his term and actually hired Christopher Wray, who is a Republican. But as you said, Donald Trump has had nothing but vitriol towards the FBI in most of the years since, particularly as they were investigating him and raiding his home at Mar-a-Lago. And even though Donald Trump hasn't been particularly specifically critical of Chris Wray by name as much as he has other people, there's a general consensus that Wray can't survive this. And in fact, we have reporting that Donald Trump is considering other people. It may not be a firing. It may be a soft signal and Wray decides to resign before he's fired. But it looks like that's the direction in which it's headed, Savannah.
So you mentioned this. There is a name being floated, somebody who actually wrote a book called Government Gangsters, calling for a comprehensive house cleaning at the FBI. Tell us about this person.
Yeah, his name is Kash Patel, and he is the human personification of MAGA conspiracy theories about the so-called deep state. He really believes and has said many times that there are criminals buried inside the FBI and the CIA that need to be prosecuted, that need to be rooted out. The idea of him atop these agencies is greeted with horror inside among the career folks. You know, he came to the fore as a staffer for the House Intelligence Committee, and then Donald Trump hired him in the last administration with the DOD. And at one point, Trump tried to make him deputy CIA director, but it was so objectionable that CIA Director Gina Haspel threatened to resign if that happened and Donald Trump backed down. So that would be a really bomb-throwing appointment. And I have to say, it would be inconsistent with the direction that we're seeing so far that Trump is taking in his other appointments, Savannah.
Mr. Trump also fired the last FBI director that was early into his first administration. How much would another shakeup at the top affect the FBI? And does it tell us anything else about what we can expect from Trump's transition here?
Well, what would tell us a lot is who gets the job. The firing of Ray at this point, after around 7 years, would not be terribly destabilizing. I mean, it does go against the tradition of the FBI director supposed to be independent from the president. That's why they created this 10-year term post-Watergate. And Donald Trump is really the only president who's fired FBI directors at this rate. So it would be somewhat destabilizing. But again, it all depends on who gets the job. There are people that have been talked about, like Mike Rogers, the former congressman who ran unsuccessfully for Senate in Michigan. He's a former FBI agent, former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. He would be greeted with a sigh of relief, I believe, inside the FBI. But someone like Kash Patel, that's another story, Savannah.
All right, Ken Delaney, and thank you so much. Well, this morning, U.S. Airlines are canceling flights in and out of Haiti after a Spirit Airlines plane was hit by gunfire on Monday, forcing it to abort a landing. We're now learning about a second plane that was struck by a bullet as it was leaving the country that same day. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello covers aviation. He joins us with the latest on this. Hi, Tom. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. This was extremely dangerous. Thankfully, both aircraft landed safely, but these were clearly marked passenger planes with airline logos. Much of Port-au-Prince is lawless, controlled by very heavily armed gangs. Whatever the motivation for shooting at these planes, it could have ended in disaster. This morning, grounded. U.S. Airlines canceling flights in and out of Haiti. And news of a second incident involving a passenger plane hit by gunfire. Overnight, JetBlue announced one of its planes returned from Port-au-Prince on Monday, landing safely at JFK in New York, saying a post-flight inspection found the aircraft's exterior had been struck by a bullet. Some of the passengers from a Spirit Airlines flight that was also hit by gunfire as it approached Port-au-Prince on Monday are now back in Florida.
I could hear 3 distinct crack, 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 over the back of the plane.
It goes from here.
Video and photos from inside the plane show signs of the bullets that tore into the passenger cabin. On the plane's belly, at least one bullet hole. An electrical line also apparently hit.
I think the crew was really traumatized.
Amazingly, no passengers were hit, but Spirit says one flight attendant did suffer a minor injury. Spirit Flight 951 was arriving from Fort Lauderdale when it was hit by gunfire from the ground as it approached Port-au-Prince. The pilots quickly aborted their landing and diverted to Santiago in the Dominican Republic, where Spirit says an inspection revealed evidence of damage to the aircraft consistent with gunfire. Aviation experts say gunfire could have easily hit the plane's fuel, hydraulic systems, and cockpit, causing the plane to crash.
This crew and these passengers were very fortunate that luck prevailed and nobody in the airplane was injured and that the airplane wasn't more critically damaged. This could have gone very badly.
Haiti has been racked by brutal gang violence for years, with a barely functioning government and UN peacekeepers from Nigeria now on the ground. Yeah, in September, the State Department issued a do not travel advisory for Haiti, warning the airport can be the focal point for armed activity. But roughly 4 U.S. flights a day were still flying into Port-au-Prince. And now American is suspending their flights into the country until at least Monday. JetBlue says flights are suspended until December 2nd. At this point, the airport is closed, and we're awaiting FAA guidance as well. Savannah?
All right, Tom, thank you so much. We've got much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including more on the missing father out of Wisconsin, now accused of faking his own death after his wife and 3 kids spent weeks searching for his body. First, though, after the break, a dangerous Russian counteroffensive picking up steam in the wake of President-elect Trump's White House win. We'll bring you the latest next. Welcome back. Ukraine's president says Russia has massed 50,000 troops in preparation to retake the Russian region of Kursk, which Ukrainian forces captured in the summer. The impending battle comes as reports say there's now a formal military alliance between Russia and North Korea. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons joins us on this. Keir, good morning.
Savannah, good morning to you. Ukraine says overnight Russia fired 110 drones, and it says fewer than half of them were intercepted. This morning, ferocious Ukrainian resistance facing a massive Russian force. Fighting for a territory in Russia just weeks before President-elect Trump takes office. The battle for a few hundred miles of land, crucial to Moscow, aimed at taking back Kursk, a region of Russia seized by Ukraine over the summer. President Putin saying active operations are underway. President Zelensky says Ukraine is holding back the offensive. Adding, Russia has a nearly 50,000-strong enemy group along the front line. The US says the anticipated Russian assault supported by more than 10,000 North Korean soldiers. Ukraine says this footage shows the North Korean troops gathering at a Russian base. The men speak Korean, but it's not possible to confirm when or where it was filmed. A military alliance between Kim Jong-un and President Putin now ratified by both sides, according to South Korean reports this morning. Despite talk of imposing a peace settlement, the war is escalating. Huge drone attacks rained down on Ukraine and Russia in recent days. On Monday, 9 were killed and 27 injured by glide bombs, drones and missiles, Ukraine says. Overnight, Russia says it downed 13 Ukrainian drones. British and French leaders marking Armistice Day Monday, vowing to put Ukraine in the strongest possible position before President-elect Trump returns to office. And reports in Europe say that the British Prime Minister will attempt again to put pressure on President Biden to agree to Ukraine using long-range missiles. Savannah, while negotiations are on the horizon, both sides right now seem set to let their weapons do the talking. Savannah.
All right, Keir, thank you so much. Now let's head to Cuba, where a major earthquake struck the island Sunday. This latest disaster comes after a cascade of hurricanes and blackouts have left many on the island reeling. Here's NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber, with how people are coping.
Buildings in Cuba once again left in pieces from disaster. Bricks littering the ground, roofs caved in, chunks of walls missing. Hundreds of already vulnerable buildings, some with decades of decay, damaged after a 6.8 magnitude earthquake rocked the island over the weekend. This woman saying she's felt earthquakes here before, but nothing this strong. That quake and 2 powerful aftershocks originating just off of Cuba's southern coast. People saying they felt the earth shake in major cities like Santiago de Cuba and even outside of Cuba, with additional reports of rumblings in Kingston, Jamaica.
Ante la situación sísmica ocurrida,
Cuba's National Seismological Service saying over 300 smaller aftershocks have rippled across Cuba since yesterday. Officials reporting at least 3 collapses, 200 partial collapses, and 12,000 people left without power. They maintain there were no fatalities.
muy fuerte, muy fuerte.
Very strong, this man says. We're not used to this. The previous quakes weren't as strong as the 2 that we felt today. Cuba's leader urging people nearing the earthquake's epicenter to stay outside as damage is assessed, saying the area has been hit by landslides and power outages. The earthquake hitting an already vulnerable island. Hurricane Rafael battered Cuba just last Wednesday, only the latest in a string of storms to hit the island this year. Those storms pushing Cuba's already aging infrastructure to the brink. For months, Cubans have been dealing with the island's worst blackouts in years. The government facing a deepening economic crisis and crippling oil supply that has them begging for oil from allies. Frustrated residents took to the streets in the days leading up to the quake, demanding the government do more to restore power and address the shortages of water, food, fuel, and medicine. The communist government accusing protesters of breaking the law, arresting an unknown number of people in 3 provinces for assault, public disorder, and vandalism. That, according to the island's top prosecutor. For now, the cleanup continues. The government says over 90% of the island's power has been restored, but many there wondering how much longer Cuba's decaying power lines and buildings can last. Ellison Barber, NBC News.
Let's get more on that landmark defense treaty we just mentioned. This is between Russia and North Korea, and how it could have impacts on the war in Ukraine. NBC's Matt Bodner joins us with that and other world headlines. Hey, Matt, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. Now, as we mentioned, Russia completed ratification of this treaty last week, and so North Korean ratification now makes it official. For context, this is the most significant defense agreement signed by either country since the Cold War. President Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un first signed it back in June, and even before this formal ratification by both sides, we've seen elements of it put into practice. North Korea has sent around 10,000 troops to Russia to assist the Kremlin's war against Ukraine. Those forces are now engaged with Ukrainian troops in Russia's Kursk region. That is according to Ukrainian officials. Moving along now to New Zealand, Prime Minister Christopher Luxon has apologized on behalf of the nation to victims of physical and sexual abuse in state and faith-based institutions. The apology follows a report that found around 200,000 children, also vulnerable adults, suffered some kind of abuse in care institutions over the past 70 years. Based on these findings, the government has already completed, or they've started work, on 28 recommendations put forward by the inquiry responsible for the report. And we'll wrap up this hour in Vatican City. The Vatican and Microsoft have unveiled a digital replica of St. Peter's Basilica created using the help of artificial intelligence. Essentially, 400,000 high-resolution images taken by drones, cameras, also lasers over a 4-week period were paired with AI to produce the 3D replica. The Basilica is, of course, one of the most visited sites in the world, and this project is intended to help the Vatican manage flows of visitors, but also identify issues with conservation efforts. Back to you.
All right, Matt, thank you. Well, coming up, a stunning verdict in that infamous Delphi double murder case. After the break, the man found guilty of murdering 2 Indiana teens back in 2017, and the small town on the road to healing after an unthinkable tragedy. That's next on Morning News Now. Welcome back. An Indiana man is waking up a convicted killer this morning after a jury found him guilty in the infamous Delphi double murder case. Richard Allen was convicted on all counts for the 2017 slayings of 2 teenage girls in a case that gripped the nation. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa joins us now from outside the courthouse with the latest here. Maggie, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Yeah, this high-profile trial lasted nearly 4 weeks with a sequestered jury deliberating over the course of 4 days. And this morning, the wife of the man they convicted is speaking out as this small town works to honor 2 young victims.
This morning, after years of mystery and days of deliberation, a conviction in the Delphi double murder case. Indiana pharmacy tech Richard Allen found guilty on all counts in the 2017 slayings of 13-year-old Abby Williams and her 14-year-old best friend Libby German, a crime that's forever shaken this small town.
Has this case changed, Delphi?
Yes.
Oh, without a doubt. I think it changes the way that the community interacts with each other. A lot more suspicious.
A jury of 8 women and 4 men agreeing with prosecutors' theory that Allen was the so-called bridge guy who forced the girls off a popular walking trail at gunpoint, as Libby recorded on her cell phone. Prosecutors arguing he then slit the girls' throats and left them to die, but not before leaving a cartridge from his gun at the scene. They argued Allen made multiple confessions behind bars, playing a recording of him telling his wife, "I did it," adding, "I killed Abby and Libby." The defense blasting Allen's confessions as false, saying he was suffering from psychosis after 13 months in solitary confinement. His legal team arguing there was no DNA evidence tying Allen to the scene and blasted the state's desperation after the murders went unsolved for 5 years. After the verdict was read, NBC affiliate WTHR capturing this video of Allen's wife outside the courthouse saying, meanwhile, Libby's sister posting on Instagram, nearly 8 years, today was the day. Headed into the holiday season, Delphi now decked in ribbons and signs to honor 2 girls taken too soon.
The 2 little girls that died here, and that's just awful.
Yeah.
That will always be in our hearts.
And Richard Allen's sentencing is set for December 20th. He faces up to 130 years in prison, with one person commenting on that social media post from Libby's sister, quote, "Justice is finally served." Savannah.
All right, Maggie, thank you. Well, this morning we are also learning stunning new details about a married father in Wisconsin who was reported missing and originally thought to have drowned while kayaking this summer. But after a months-long investigation, authorities now believe he faked his own death. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock is in studio with us to bring us these details. Sam, good morning.
Yeah, Savannah, good morning. Imagine this pendulum of pain for the family, right? They went from thinking their husband and their father drowned in a lake to thinking that he faked his own death and had just abandoned them. Investigators, Savannah, spent almost 2 months scouring this lake, only to turn their attention elsewhere and realize that they were unraveling a new mystery.
Ryan Borgwart's routine day on the water in early August turned out to be anything but after the 45-year-old from Wisconsin left to go fishing and never came home. What happened next, Sheriff Mark Padal says, left everybody stunned. Signs the father of 3 faked his own death. Have you, in your professional law enforcement experience, ever seen any case that even approximates this?
No, and I've been in law enforcement for 42 years. I never experienced anything like this.
In the immediate hours and days after Borgwart's reported disappearance, search teams found a capsized kayak and life jacket in the deepest part of the lake, his van and trailer parked by the boat launch, and eventually his fishing rod and a tackle box that also contained his keys and a wallet. But after weeks of scouring Green Lake, no indication of the father of 2 high schoolers and a 7th grader. A search team from Bruce's Legacy using sonar to comb the lake.
By the time we got into day 10, roughly, I mean, it was evident to me that, something wasn't right.
When police reviewed the 45-year-old's laptop, they say they found a trove of information, including inquiries about moving funds to foreign banks, communication with a woman from Uzbekistan, even a $375,000 life insurance policy purchased in January. The sheriff says his passport was checked by Canadian authorities the day after his reported disappearance. And in early October, Borgwart's wife and relatives learned the search was turning into an investigation. On Friday, the sheriff speaking directly to Borgwart.
I plead that you contact us or contact your family. We understand that things can happen. But there's a family that wants their daddy back.
Now, answers are few and far between, but he says authorities are on the trail. He's at a 2-month head start.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's ahead of us, but we'll catch him.
Wow, Sam, so if they were to catch him, what do we know about charges? Would he face charges here?
Sure. So at this point, they're not talking about any charges. They brought in the FBI to help with the investigation. But the bottom line is they're trying to convince this father of three to please listen to what we're saying right now and come home. Savannah, he has three kids, senior year of high school, freshman year of high school, and 7th grade. His wife, Emily, has said, I can't comment on an ongoing investigation, but we found out from the sheriff that she was told the information about how this went from basically a likely drowning to an investigation of his disappearance weeks before. And she had to sit on it without telling her kids and sort of internalize all of this anguish. And now it's coming to light, but they still have absolutely no idea where in the world this man is.
Oh, my goodness. Also, I think when some people hear that, they might think, he used his passport. Wasn't that easy enough to figure out? Why did we spend months thinking that he had passed? What about that?
So they said that they were scouring the lake. They had no reason to think anything other than he was in the lake. They weren't turning their attention to where they might have found hits with border authorities, in this case in Canada. But when they started to look in that direction, it was like a ball of yarn where it just started to come apart. They found the passport hit. Then they found the fact he'd been communicating with a woman in Uzbekistan. He had changed emails, foreign accounts, the life insurance policy. It all started to add up. But they said they didn't have no reason to look initially down that road.
It's really a bizarre one. Sam Brock, keep us posted. Thank you. Well, coming up, inflation might be cooling off, but a lot of Americans are still worried about shelling out for groceries, especially with Thanksgiving right around the corner. Always expensive. Help us at hand, though. After the break, we'll dig into a brand new report showing where you can get the best bang for your buck this year. Stay with us. Welcome back. When it comes to buying food, Americans have been feeling the pinch in their wallets due to high prices for a while now. Even though inflation is down, many will still be concerned about the high cost of Thanksgiving food. This morning, Wells Fargo is out with a new report, which they say can help shoppers get the best bang for their buck this Turkey Day. Joining us with more on this and on the report is Courtney Schmidt. She's the sector manager at Wells Fargo Agri-Food Institute. Courtney, good morning. Thanks for being here. Very cool to have this report from you. Also, help shoppers understand here. Wells Fargo compared the cost between store brand and name brand items that people might find on a typical Thanksgiving menu. I've done some stories here. When you do that comparison, it can be pretty amazing. What were the differences in pricing?
Yeah, so the Wells Fargo Food Institute, when we looked at this, we wanted to compare what your national brand, which when you think of national brand, think of like an example would be Pepsi or Coca-Cola, versus your store brand, which maybe you might not be quite as familiar with, or store brand, think of like your typical retailer, their brand, sometimes called private label. And as you would expect, your store brand comes in cheaper. So if you were planning a Thanksgiving meal for a family of 10, you could look at that and have a savings if you went all store brand of $17. So you can see it right there on the screen, $90 if you did national brand versus $73. But there's some good values in there either way. If you're looking, if you have your favorite brands, it really can be some surprises in there that the name brands can actually be cheaper at certain times.
The report found that in some cases, like you're saying, it is actually better to do that. So walk us through like specific items on a holiday menu. Which items should shoppers go with store versus name brand?
Yeah. So we'll start off with the turkey. That's always the star of the show. And when it comes to your turkey, of course, this is a bigger priced item. Really, when you look at the name brand, it was really interesting. We actually saw that prices have come down this year compared to last year for your name brand. They were down just a little bit. And then for your store brand, it was actually down as well. And so it's really not that big of a price difference between the national brand versus the store brand. So if you're really partial to your national brand, feel free to go ahead and pick up your turkey. When it comes to other items, some of the surprises that we saw where the store brand was actually a little bit more expensive was your cranberries. Just because of market dynamics, there's a large harvest there this year. So you're actually a little bit cheaper to go with your national brand. Another one that we saw that was kind of a surprise with your national brand was your pumpkin pies. Now, there can be some big variance in there on the different name brand. But overall, if you look at that, they were pretty close in comparison. At times, the name brand was actually a little bit cheaper. As far as like some of your other main meals that you think about your stuffing. We looked at prepackaged stuffing because convenience is so important for consumers these days. This is an area that you're still going to pay more. We were really surprised to see that this one was up 9% for your national brand, where your store brand was only up 3%. But it's a very low menu cost item. So if you really love your name brand, feel free to go ahead and pick that up because there's not a huge price difference from a price point.
What are some other ways people can save as they start planning?
Yeah, so one of the things when you think about your beverages, so wine and beer are pretty much in line with the inflation that we've seen. So that's been pretty stable as far as you see there. But if you're really looking for a savings, think about your sodas. We're still seeing costs go up in canned soda. But we actually saw prices go down for your liter of soda. So maybe this is the year that you get some cups and break out that liter bottle and share to save a little bit of money there.
All right, Courtney Schmidt, thank you so much. Happy holidays. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for helping us save.
Yeah, thank you.
There's even more money news we've got for you, including a new leadership shakeup at Boeing. CNBC's Bertha Coombs has that and other financial headlines. Hey, Bertha.
Hey, Savannah. Yeah, Boeing announced that the head of quality control at the embattled plane maker will retire next month. Elizabeth Lund is a 33-year veteran of the company and was named to the position by then CEO Dave Calhoun just in February after the mid-air panel blowout aboard an Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9. She claims that she had always intended to retire at this point. Meantime, Costco has been forced to recall more than 80,000 pounds of its Kirkland signature butter because the label does not mention that it contains milk. Butter is, of course, a dairy product that's made by churning milk or cream, so the recall is drawing some mockery online. The label did, however, include cream as an ingredient. And Jimmy Fallon is topping the charts. Watch out, Mariah Carey. The Tonight Show host's first holiday album called Holiday Seasoning just debuted at #2 on Billboard's Top Holiday Albums chart and #1 on the Comedy Albums chart. The album includes duets with Ariana Grande, Dolly Parton, Justin Timberlake, Weird Al Yankovic. So it's not, yeah.
He's got real singers on there, so it's not all just a joke. There's got to be some good music. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to listen. I'm like so in the Christmas music spirit. I love it. Bertha, thank you. Now let's get to some other business news and a growing trend when it comes to TV watching. More Americans are beginning to take a break from their streaming subscriptions as prices of those services keep rising. But new numbers show that many of them are not canceling those subscriptions altogether. NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans has more on these so-called streaming pausers.
Hey there, for a lot of Americans, gone are the days of committing to long-term cable plans. Instead, as people become more comfortable with video streamers, the new habit is to switch around. Many users following a simple pattern: subscribe, watch, cancel, repeat. And now companies are taking notice and taking advantage.
This war's just beginning.
Whether it's a new season of your favorite show,
I'm the Wolverine,
that blockbuster movie release, or a live sporting event,
the New York Jets run onto the field at MetLife Stadium.
Video streaming services have it all these days.
Maybe I'm someone who's ready for new experiences.
But with so many options and soaring price tags, more Americans are now pressing pause on their subscriptions.
So we're going to watch the shows, but we're going to do it our way that we don't get screwed.
New data over the last year shows that across all premium services, 34% of new users were actually resubscribers who had canceled within the prior 12 months, as first reported by the Wall Street Journal. Streamers and big-budget series like Max and Apple TV, and sports-heavy services like Paramount Plus and Peacock, owned by our parent company NBC Universal, had the largest portion of customers pausing and then coming back.
What's driving this? People are pausing because they want better convenience or because of cost?
It's largely cost. Cost of everything in consumers' lives has gone up. And so you have more households saying, I want some flexibility. I don't need to have all this all the time.
A recent survey found the average household spending more than ever on video streaming, now averaging $61 a month for 4 services, up 27% from last year.
Having all these things and a YouTube you are wasting money.
The push for profitability has also led to password sharing crackdowns by many providers.
Legitimately, it might be time to cancel some subscriptions.
In response to it all, frustrated customers are becoming more impulsive with their cancellations, and streamers are adapting to the trend. Netflix allows members to pause for up to 3 months. while Hulu lets you put your subscription on hold for up to 12 weeks. And the Wall Street Journal reports Disney Plus will soon offer a new pause feature of its own. But the bottom line, in the age of streaming wars and cutthroat competition, companies are desperate to keep your business.
As for what's being done content-wise to entice us, companies have become much more savvy with scheduling, releasing new seasons at strategic times to keep you hooked. Bundling is also a popular option. That's sort of a win-win for companies and consumers. One recent study showed customers who bundle are more likely to keep those subscriptions after 6 months. Back to you.
All right, Christine, thank you so much. Well, this weekend, Houston Texans fans got a first look at the team's first new uniforms as part of the NFL franchise's big rebrand. Today Show anchor Craig Melvin went behind the scenes at Nike to see how the new look came together.
During Sunday night's matchup in Houston, all new uniforms for both teams. The Lions in their fresh away white, the Texans head to toe in what they call battle red. One of 4 all-new uniforms the Texans are rolling out this season. It's the team's first ever rebrand. Owners Cal and Hannah McNair said it was time.
We were hearing from the fans. They wanted to see some change to the uniforms.
We're moving into what we hope is to be a great era. And what can we take with us and what can we change to be better? And so the uniforms was one of those.
The team conducted 50 focus groups with fans and players. They also put out 10,000 surveys to drill down on what the Texans faithful wanted to see. Meanwhile, the NFL connected the Texans with Nike, who has designed and supplied uniforms for every NFL team since 2012. We went to Oregon to become the first broadcast news show inside the Nike Sport Research Lab. There, we met design director for NFL uniforms, Ryan Earhart.
When a team decides that they want to change their uniform, change their look, what happens next?
We're talking about the Houston Texans today, and they want to take the uniform to a much more modern space.
There are rules. The NFL allows teams to have 4 uniforms. The home uniform with the team's signature colored jersey and the away with the white jersey. They're also allowed 2 alternate uniforms where they can use current team colors in different ways. Alternates can also be throwback uniforms, bringing back a look from a prior era, which the Broncos and Giants did this season. For their new design, the Texans went big.
When we're talking about the design, we're talking about everything from the font to what? To the color scheme, all of that?
In the Texans' case, it was a full closet redesign. They wanted to keep their existing branding, but they wanted to refresh the look, the fonts, and the overall feeling and mood of the uniform.
The process took more than 7 months. The final result, Ryan says, is a mix of artistry and storytelling.
This looks like the home uniform.
Yeah, so this is their home uniform. It's the timeless classic.
So this is their away uniform.
Yes, feels very sleek, very modern, clean. This is where we started to bring in the bullhorn stripe. So the traditional stripe from the side, but as you transition to the front, it actually turns into the bullhorns.
Oh,
so think of players going down into stance. It looks like the bull is ready to charge.
That's hot.
This is where the Texans really leaned into celebrating the culture of Houston. So this is where the H-Town blue plays a little bit more of a part in the uniform. Then also looking at the helmet. You know, they're leveraging their new H logo. If you look really closely, you can start to see some of the red flakes within the...
Oh, you're right. That's pretty cool, too.
So this is their battle red. This is a bolder version of the away uniform, playing down the color a bit, going more tonal. I think the statement piece here is the battle red helmet with the bullhorns.
They threw a Texas-sized party when the new uniforms were unveiled in April. Since then, the uniforms keep selling out. But what about the players who wear them on the field? Safety Jalen Petrie grew up in Houston and took part in the design process.
Everything, like every piece of the uniform is detail-oriented and it means something throughout the whole uniform.
William Anderson Jr. was the NFL's Defensive Rookie of the Year.
You see the uniforms and he's like, oh yeah, these tough. It added a little bit more juice to it because when you know something is fire, it just makes you want to be like, yeah, I can really go ball out in this. Like, I feel like the saying is like, I feel good, I play good.
How cool is that? Our thanks to Craig for that report. NFL rules say that a team can only redesign their uniforms once every 5 years. So luckily, the Texans' new look appears to be a hit. Well, coming up, we're going to meet one of the legendary Radio City Rockettes. After the break, the native New Yorker, whose 9 to 5 looks just a little different from most people's here in Midtown. We'll bring you that story next. Welcome back. For nearly a century, watching the Rockettes has been a holiday staple for American families. And this weekend, the Radio City Christmas Spectacular kicked off another magical season. NBC4 reporter Checky Beckford got to talk to one of the women behind the classic performances. Get this, she's been at it for almost 2 decades.
Here in the theater, I'm in costumes and glamorous. And then I walk outside, and then I'm walking to Grand Central just like everybody else.
Long Island resident Tara Tuberty has a typical New York commute.
I'm coming in from Long Island, taking that Long Island Railroad, getting my kids ready in the morning for school, budgeting in that commuting time. So yeah, like any other working parent.
But this mom of 3 has anything but a typical New York job. Tuberty is a Radio City Music Hall Rockette, and she's an original.
Born and raised New Yorker, growing up here in New York City, from Queens originally.
The only Rockette from New York, grew up in Whitestone, Queens.
I grew up coming to the Christmas Spectacular with my family. It was one of our holiday traditions.
A tradition that turned into a passion.
This is my 19th year here performing the Christmas Spectacular.
The veteran Rockette now lives in Oceanside and pinches herself every time she steps into the iconic theater.
I'm just so happy and proud to be a part of it.
And now it's Tuberty's kids who get to watch her perform.
And I have to remind them that not everybody's mom is a Rockette, and they get to come to Radio City every year.
She and other Rockettes now prepping for another magical season of welcoming families like hers back to Radio City.
Christmas in New York is one of the most beautiful, special times. There's really no other place like it.
I could not agree more. Our thanks to Checky Beckford for that story. If you want to catch Tara in a performance, the Radio City Music Hall Christmas Spectacular is running until January 5th. I got to get my tickets. It is so much fun. If you haven't seen it, make a trip. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. Don't go anywhere, though. Look at that. The trees outside, and the news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.